Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. Yeah, you know what we're talking about today. I mean, my goodness. How historic does a topic have to be before you wonder, I wonder if we're going to talk about that on WBAP all day. You have never seen this before. Joe Biden dropping out. It's just another in a long line on the checkbox of how weird, how goofy, how mutated and malignant of a tumor this election season is. So, just got a little bit weirder. Joe Biden drops out. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it with Dan Snell, my winsome guest on the James Show. Welcome back, Dan Snell. Biden dropped out. I guess the closest historical comparison that I've seen thus far be made over and over is to LBJ dropping out. And that's pretty close, and that didn't turn out too well for his party in the election, did it? Dan, you with us? Did you hit mute on your phone on accident? We're off to a stellar start.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
there we go.
My apologies. There we go.
That's all right. We all do it.
Johnson, 1968. I was alive. I do remember that. Yeah, and you're right. It didn't turn out very good for their party. But as you mentioned at the top of your show, these are unprecedented times. The amazing last 25 days, we've had the debate and all the brouhaha about the debate, and then we had calls for Biden to step down. Then we had an assassination attempt. Then we had the RNC and all that excitement. And then Biden does step down, and now it's all about the vice president. Is she going to be the candidate? So in the last 25 days, there's been nonstop excitement.
Yeah, and over this long time span, it lets you know that it wasn't the debate. That's not why he dropped out. That wasn't the actionable final straw. The final straw was the donors withdrawing their money. Now, the donors would withdraw their money because of some internal polling that you and I haven't seen, or I don't think you've seen it. I know I haven't seen it. And, you know, Pelosi's seen it. They showed it to Joe Biden. They said, we're going to go public with these numbers or info. That's the nearest I've got on what the actionable thing is that made him drop out, the donors.
Yeah, I wish it would have been, the actionable thing would have been, I'm going to do what's right for the country and what's right, you know, for his party, as he said. But it was time. I mean, he had served, he's had a long career. For his legacy, he should have stepped aside. The money was drying up. It was momentum. It's just like when in a sports team, when the momentum just keeps going for you or against you, it's hard to stop that ball rolling, and that's what happened. And you're right. The dollars were drying up, and you can't win without dollars.
Well, the interesting part is we now know who really runs the country, because the joke is, you know, this guy's not in charge. Who really is? Well, whoever these donors are, they're the ones who can control who an entire candidate is for one of the political parties. Who are these people? Who are the people that, you know, we just found out who the Wizard of Oz is behind the curtain, but who are they?
Yeah, right here in Kansas, the Wizard of Oz, where I'm from. It's going to be interesting now is what's going on behind the scenes. President Obama has not formally, at least in the last half hour, to my knowledge, has not endorsed her. And there's, you know, some talk, you and I talked about it, I think, a previous show. Is there some long shot that Michelle Obama might become the candidate because the polls show her as a significant winner over Donald Trump? So everything looks like it's the vice president, but who knows?
Dan Snell, who do you think it's going to be?
I honestly, if I had, of course, you know, it's fun. Last time we were together, you said you'd have me back today to see whether I was right about my 48 hours and Biden will step down. So I got one right.
That puts me in. You know what? He gets like 20 points for that one, Garrett. Put Dan down for another 20 points. There you go. All right.
Well, thank you. Yeah, you know, most of the time, you know, 7 times out of 10 I'm wrong. But if you're in baseball, batting 300 gets you in the Hall of Fame. So I still think that Michelle Obama, behind the scenes, is going to be the one that emerges, even though everything looks like the money, the names on all the bank accounts, all the endorsements. I think anything could happen, because what we don't know is there hasn't been enough time for, as unfortunately every political race is about, pointing out how bad the other person is and all the horrible things in their past, and that's why you should vote for me. And so I think we're going to start to see all of a sudden things come out, the research come out that Vice President Harris is going to have some embarrassing moments, and Michelle Obama could look like the hero that rides into the Democratic convention as the one who can save the day.
Well, I believe that Reuters poll that says she gives him the best chance of winning. If they can talk her into it, that's what you got to hope for if you're a Democrat. But if They don't talk her into it. The bench is looking really bleak. I if I had to put money on it, if you gave me like $100 bill and said who do you put it on, I think I would have to put it on Kamala.
Yeah, well, that's a good bet. My daughter Mandy lives there in Dallas, and I could deliver that $100. So let's say this: you're going to go with the vice president. I'm going to say it's going to not be her, and I'll come live and in person to the James Show, and somebody will give somebody $100. But I'm going to say it's not going to be the vice president. You say it is. We'll see.
Oh my goodness! I just wrote myself into a $100 bet. Thank you very much, Dan Snell. His website is winsomeway.com. Winsomeway.com. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, great to be with you. Stay winsome.
All right, now let me ask you the same question I asked Dan. Who do you think is going to be the replacement? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'll tell you, I really think it's Kamala, but we'll run through the list of other people who are likely, or at least being thrown around in the conversation. I really don't see anyone coming out of left field on this one, but I've gotten so many predictions wrong. I'm not going to put my foot down too hard on any of these. So your opinion's welcome. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Listen, I am super excited to be here and excited about sharing this moment in history with you. But if I sound a little weird, I'm having to wear Garrett's headphones, and I left my headphones at my home studio like an idiot. And it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but it feels weird. It feels like when you go to your friend's house and he has a swimming pool, and he's like, hey, you want to go swimming? And you're like, yeah, but I didn't bring my swimsuit. Oh, you can wear one of mine. This is a little private, a little close. So if I sound odd, it's not you. It's not you. It's me. But this is a hilarious day. Joe Biden finally drops out, something that many people have predicted. And now that it's happened, I'm so surprised that when he dropped out, they didn't immediately have the replacement ready. That lets me know they don't have the replacement ready, because this is not what you want. You do not want this Lord of the Flies moment where we all have to figure out who's in whose tribes, and then we're going to kill Piggy or whatever the book says. And I think that they're going to wait on about a week or so's worth of polling to see if someone rises to the top about giving them the best chance to beat Donald Trump, and then they'll say whoever that is. This isn't going to be picked. This person isn't going to be picked on their principles or on their policy positions, on if they're the best person to run America. This is just all about winning at this point, and that's why he got kicked out, because there was no path for him to win. You may say, well, the donors withdrawed. Why the donors withdraw? Because he was going to lose. 800-288-9227 for some of the obvious questions. If not Kamala, who? Or maybe you think it is going to be Kamala. Let's go to the phones. Julian Saginaw, you're first up on the James Show on WBAP. Who do you think it's going to be?
Well, if Obama doesn't try to get her butt back in there, I think the possibility of Gavin Newsom and Pete Buttigieg, if they can get Kamala to walk away.
How did they escape the criticism that you passed over both a female and a person of color?
I don't know that they can. It's just, and Kamala may be able to, hang in there, but I'm afraid with Pelosi's connections with California hero out there that, is destroying that part of the...
Right, and isn't Gavin Newsom is Nancy Pelosi's like great nephew by marriage or something? They're somehow like familial. There's a connection there.
Yeah, there is something.
Well, listen, I was sort of asking that question because I have my own answer to it. I'm just not too thrilled with it when I say how are they going to escape the criticism that they passed over a female and a person of color? And I think my best answer, as I've evolved on this, thinking about it for a couple of days now, is the people who would usually do the criticizing are going to keep their mouth shut. That's all they got to do. The people that usually criticize that are going to be on their side, so they're not even going to bring it up. They'll be able to bury that in a second. Why would we think that would stop them? But look,
you're exactly right.
Right. Here's the weird part. Then aren't they implying, if not totally admitting, that she was just a token? She was a DEI candidate, someone to put on the ticket just to check a couple boxes because they think the electorate's so stupid that, we'll get your vote. We'll put a person of color or a female on our ticket. And that kind of proves it.
Yeah, and I think that, and I think Buttigieg has some. He carries himself well, but I think that would also try to check a box for them as well.
Oh, the gay thing, yeah, that probably helps. All right. Thank you very much, Julie. Good call. 5 points to Julie since we're doing points today. Okay. Robert and Joshua, you're next up on WBAP. What do you think?
Well, I think they've got 3 or 4 choices. They can do Hillary, Newsom, or Obama, but I think they're going to go with Kamala and possibly Newsom.
Yeah.
Because she's got the money from the current coffers, and then it wasn't too long ago that they were combating the 25th Amendment because of who would become president if they got rid of Clinton. Now, if it's Kamala and Newsom, I don't think they'll have a problem doing the 25th Amendment to get rid of Kamala so that Newsom gets in there, and that way they can keep the money that they've got in the coffers already and get Newsom in there.
I don't think people should care so much about the money. They will find a way. Like, they can't give it directly to the next campaign, but they could give it to a super PAC that would do the same sort of media buys that the campaign would do with that money. So it's probably not a big of an incentive as people are given to it. But I mean, what the hell do I know? But
then you got the case of
the 25th Amendment. Yeah, and I talked to what was that, Talmadge Boston, who I think is going to be on again later in the show. I think I asked him last week about the 25th Amendment situation, and he said it wouldn't be a problem. Kamala would probably just claim her D.C. residence as her primary residence now, because she can change it before the election and skirt under the 25th Amendment, which makes me say, well, what do we even have that part of the 25th Amendment for if it's that easily subverted? But here we are, because we had that discussion earlier this year with the idea of Trump maybe picking DeSantis as his running mate, and there were some 25th Amendment issues there, and then Trump could either claim his D.C. or his New York residency to get around that. So I don't think that's much of a holdup either.
Yeah, but maybe getting rid of her because of her incompetence.
Yeah, right. Look, if they don't like her, might as well let her run and burn her. Just get rid of it. Thank you very much for your call. I got time to squeeze in one more, right? Let's do Bruce. Bruce, over in Wills Point. You're on the James Show on WBAP. What do you think, sir?
Yeah, hey, how are you doing? Hey, I've been listening to this all day, and Obama's name keep coming up, but I gotta ask. I mean, other than the fact that she sets the standard for being black, she kind of sets the standard for being a woman, and she just got name recognition. She doesn't bring anything else to the table. Nothing political, nothing of anything worth value on the world scene. They're talking about putting somebody in to run this country that she's never worked. She hasn't done anything political except run her mouth standing behind her husband. So what gives her the standing to be considered in this race?
Well, I think just about all of us are qualified to be president. I almost go real far in the other direction. I mean, how many of us would be better than Joe Biden right now? So, and really, when it comes to Congress, I'd rather pick the first 435 people out of the Plano phone book to run the country than the people that are in there. Sure. But that aside, here's what she brings. She brings the name Obama and the fact that she was on the national stage for 8 years. She didn't do anything embarrassing. She speaks better than Biden or Kamala Harris ever could, and she's a winner. And that's what they're doing this for. They just want to win. This isn't about policy. This isn't about honoring the preferences of the primary voters of all the Democrat proletariat out there who went to the primaries and voted. Screw all their opinions. It's not what it's about. It's not even about the donors. It's about winning. And if she gives them the best chance of winning, they're going to rally around her super hard. And then they have the bonus. They get to pat themselves on the back. They will break their arm patting themselves on the back for getting the first female of color in the presidency.
But they won't be able to say that they really care about the country and love because she's not. Her standard of the United States is that we're prejudiced, we're horrible, we're
Yep. Well, they don't love the country, and we know that. And like, it doesn't hurt my feelings. It's not like a big shock. No, they don't love this country. They think this is a place is racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, capitalist pigs, robber barons grinding poor people underfoot just for sport. There's cops are just executing young black men for sport with no repercussions. Of course they hate this country. I mean, I would too if I was a socialist and I believed in all that stuff. All right, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. We'll continue with Joe Biden dropping out. Who's going to replace him next on The James Show? News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You know, with all the chaos going on surrounding election 2024, how is this going to affect your money? That's what a lot of us are concerned about. Is, hey, how does this affect me? My ear's fine. My son's fine. What about my money? What about your IRA? What about your 401k? What about your investments? Well, let's ask someone who does this for a living. Spencer McGowan from Net Worth Radio is back on the James Show. And so I just checked the stock market real quick on the break there. All three indices are in the positive. So far, Spencer McGowan, it seems like the markets are happy with what they see.
So far, so good. Further into record territory. Some of the reasons are not directly related to politics. The earnings have come in good. The company's reporting so far about a 9% gain in profits over last year. And I think most money managers are looking at that. The politics do play a part.
Well, that tells me the markets don't see that this as chaos. They don't see this as uncertainty. They see that last week looks like Trump was going to win. This week looks like Trump was going to win. Is that kind of a good take on that?
Yes, and I was surprised at the swift reaction. You know, the assassination attempt led to a conclusion, a rally, you know, which unified the Republican Party, and the Dow went straight from below 40,000 to 41,000 last week, and then it held into record territory even after a little setback. Today, wow, the S&P 500 up over 1%. So I do think that the smart people on Wall Street, even though a lot of them are masochistically democratic, the overregulation is a big issue for companies and for investors.
Well, it keeps their competition out, but yeah, it comes with the price, doesn't it? I also see the big policy change, if you don't want to just talk about personalities and how old people are for a second. It looks like Donald Trump, his administration would change things on a couple of fronts. Number one, oil and gas exploration. You know, that big energy sector can be a huge boon to the economy. Number one. Number two is letting the tax cuts expire at the end of 2025. Give me some more detail on that.
Yeah, that's a disaster waiting to happen. And you know, if you said, hey, I want to predict the next recession, well, that's a good place to start, because the average upper middle class family, you know, their taxes went down by nearly 20% in the tax cuts set to expire. You know, January 26, you've got higher taxes without Congress doing something. And then on the other side of that, this overregulation, you notice the Federal Trade Commission has sued nearly every major merger, and the rules coming fast and furious put the Federal Register of Regulations at a record. That causes inflation. You can look at the graph on our website and see that. I mean, inflation, when they more than quadrupled the regulations in the 60s and 70s, well, you went from 1% to 15% inflation. Deregulation is going to be a big topic.
So the other things that are part of the political platform that could overlap with your money is there's talk of both sides accuse the other of wanting to destroy Social Security and Medicare, but then neither side really wants to when they get in office. Should anyone be concerned about that?
Well, controlling the entitlements, that's a big issue. And first comes the elimination of fraud, right? The Social Security checks that may go to dead people, right? That's a bad thing. But in the case of controlling fraud, that's kind of budget step number one, especially on the entitlement side. The other would be tightening the rules for getting disability because you're an alcoholic before age 65. You get to claim early benefits if a doctor says, yeah, he's so drunk he's disabled.
Wait a second. Can you get that if you work at Cumulus?
Well, you'd probably have to get fired for being drunk first, but in the case of...
Challenge accepted, Spencer. No.
In the case of Social Security, there is a provision for disability due to addiction, and it's used quite often. So, in other words, on the entitlement side, before you hit the third rail of saying to people, oh my God, you're going to have to work longer because people live longer, which makes perfect sense,
sure, right? Mathematically, yeah.
Yeah, before you hit that third rail, you've got a lot of fat to cut to control what we'll say is a disaster waiting to happen over the next 20 years.
How are y'all going to talk about this weekend on your radio show?
Well, there was a direct correlation. I mean, you look at last week, you look at this week, and I do think, let's say Wall Street accepted the news of the potential Trump second presidency. So far, so good. Record highs with distance on most equity indexes. So it is perceived as a positive, and that's more or less step one. And you've also got Elon Musk and even Silicon Valley coming out in favor of Trump because they're a little upset over the regulation and the taxes as well.
All right, Spencer, tell them how they find you outside of the James Show.
Oh, just networthradio.com, and we have that inflation graph posted. Regulation is the primary source of inflation.
All right, and the other thing I saw that I wish we had more time here, but I saw Bud Light has fallen to the number 3 beer brand. They're still taking heat from political consequences from, I guess this was about this time last year?
Yeah, yes, and you've had Tractor Supply, Deere, and Microsoft just say, that's not really working for us right now because the shareholders have rebelled. They've said, hey, you're spending huge amounts of money on this, and it doesn't seem to be helping. Boeing's a good example, too. And so the companies have said, wait a second, the pendulum is swinging back very quickly to common sense.
All right, Spencer McGowan, thanks for being on the James Show again. Appreciate your time, sir.
James Barker, great show. Thank you, sir.
Spencer McGowan, Net Worth Radio, networthradio.com. All right, coming up next, I'm going to play you some of the reaction to Joe Biden stepping out of the race. And if you have your 2 cents to put in on who do you think will replace him, should replace him. And I would like to add in the question, because sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. And so if it fails, it'll still be funny. Democrats, do you think the right thing happened? Are you glad he stepped down? I mean, I'm not gonna give you a hard time like, hey, are you okay with overthrowing the primary results? I want to hear from your side. Does this give you a better chance of winning? Do you think they did the right thing? And who would you like to see replace him? Forget what all the Republicans think. Who does a Democrat think should replace Joe Biden on the ticket? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Is it wrong to delight in people that just scare the crap out of themselves for no reason? Rosie O'Donnell, Rachel Maddow, Joy Reid, these people are either they're putting on a very good facade or they have scared themselves of the possibility of Donald Trump being president again so much that it's ruining them. It is ruining their lives. I mean, look, Rosie O'Donnell politically, I disagree with her vehemently on so many of these issues, and I think she was ridiculous on The View, but I don't think she's a bad person. Her stand-up comedy's funny. I loved her in A League of Their Own and a bunch of other dumb movies she made. She's if she came and hung out, we'd probably be friends. I have a lot of friends just like her. But man, she makes herself miserable with this political stuff. So I don't wish ill on her, but I do delight a little bit. And if you're going to be this irrational, if you're going to be this susceptible to fear propaganda, well, then maybe you deserve to be a little bit miserable. Come on, get out, snap out of it, Rosie, snap out of it. And it's too late for her, but this is her now.
The whole thing is very, very unnerving. It's very unnerving. And 100 days, people are saying to me, my therapist actually said to me, well, it's a long time between now and November. No, it isn't. We're about to start school again. You know how quick all of a sudden it's Halloween and then it's Thanksgiving.
So she's already pessimistic. He drops out. She doesn't think, well, now we have a better chance of winning. She just seizes on the negative. And that's not necessarily a liberal or Republican thing. My wife likes to do that. She learned that from her mother-in-law, who's probably listening. So you don't have to call or text me. I know you heard that.
Break. So by Thanksgiving break, we're going to know whether we still have democracy in the United States.
Oh, stop it. Whether or not we still have democracy. She's concerned about democracy, but she's not concerned about this dude just overturning the results from the primary process. He won 47 states, and the other 3 were deemed that he won. It's not like he even split it with anyone. Well, some dude won American Samoa, but other than that, he won every single contest. But we have to jettison those results and wipe the slate clean to save democracy. Interesting. Keep going. What happened? Oh, there it goes.
That's not a long time. It's a long time to worry every day. I could tell you that. I'm excited about the Olympics starting.
Oh,
Gets me
come
excited,
on.
So I'll be cheering for that.
You sound real cheerful, Rosie.
And That's all I got today, people. Nothing big.
Listen how defeated she sounds.
Take care of yourselves. TikTok, you don't stop. Don't only watch the TV news. Don't, because it's... Listen, you can worry, and time's still going to go, and what's going to happen is going to happen.
Do I sound worried? You don't have to worry.
The wisdom to know the difference, the things I can control, right? The things you can't, wisdom to know the difference.
I kind of like this, Rosie.
That wisdom to know the difference.
It's like knowing Eeyore
right?
from Winnie the Pooh.
Drive yourself crazy. You can. Drive yourself completely bonkers. Believe me, I know.
Believe me, I know. No,
but boy, it's scary.
It's not scary.
Boy,
the world's
is
fine.
It scary.
No, it's okay.
They're not kidding around.
I'm kidding around.
Right to an authoritarian dictatorship.
Yeah, that's what we want. That's what we want. Me and Garrett over here, we're just good old fascists. What do you think? 800-288-9227. Let's talk to Rick in Dallas. You're on WBAP. What do you think, sir?
I think we're going to get a Kamala, J.B. Pritzker candidacy. I would vote Democrat if it was a Bashir and the guy from Arizona, or Kelly, but it's not going to be them. It's going to be Kamala and Pritzker.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned Kelly because I think he would be a great compliment to Kamala Harris. Not that they would take advice from me, but why do you say Jamie Pritzker? Is it J.B. Pritzker? Isn't that what it is?
JB. Yeah, it's J.B. It's not going to be Kelly because Kelly's too strong and he's too smart and he has his own opinions. They need an empty suit, kind of like Kamala and Pritzker. He's a multi-billionaire. He gets you that Zionist vote.
Are you a Democrat?
I'm an independent. I'm really the kind of voter they want to draw.
Yeah, but you would be willing to vote Democrat.
I would vote Democrat if it was Bashir and Kelly.
What do you know?
I'm not voting for Kamala, and I'm not voting for Pritzker, and I'm not voting for Newsom.
Man, what do you know about Bashir? He's the Kentucky governor, right?
Yeah,
that's all I know.
Great, man, Bashir's great. He's a moderate Democrat. I would say he's more fiscally conservative. I would say socially he's common sense and not the crazy anti-common sense wokeism sort of stuff. I mean, he's still going to have he's still pro-choice. He's still pro-gay marriage, but he's not about the forced gender transition and stuff like that. We're not going to have any of that kind of nonsense. So other than that, you could expect sort of a Bill Clinton kind of economy from a Bashir.
Well, Rick, you sound amazingly moderate. Do you believe men can have babies?
It depends on who you're asking.
Yeah, see, this is my litmus test on if you're a moderate or if you're beyond moderate. If you're just, I don't want to say far left because I doubt you're a communist. But wow, Rick,
no.
You seem look. I wouldn't throw out Bashir or Pritzker because even as a talk show host, I'm not going to pretend like I know enough about the guys. Mark Kelly, at least has some name recognition and got the cool astronaut vibe, and his wife was a victim of gun violence. And it's also, you do have, if you're going to have a woman of color at the top of the ticket, you have the old white guy at the bottom of the ticket, so you can kind of mop up all the demographics.
Pritzker, you get an obese Jew that's worth $4 billion. So, I mean, that's
is that a ringing endorsement?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I would hate Pritzker. I think Pritzker's actually worst case scenario. He's probably the most vile, evil Democrat there is. He is the mob boss of Chicago politics.
Dang, that makes me want to know more about him. All right.
Yeah, you should, because that's who Kamala wants.
Well, congrats on your depth of knowledge. Why do you know all this stuff?
Man, those 50 intel agents that signed that stuff that weren't actually intel agents. Some people actually, know what they're talking about.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you very much, Rick. All right. That's exactly the kind of call I was looking for. Well done, Rick. Can we give Rick 10 points? Yeah, that's not as much as Dan Snell for his prediction last week, but it's still pretty prestigious. 800-288-9227. We will continue talking about history in the making coming up. 800-288-9227. Jordan Davis is coming to the Pavilion at Toyota Music Factory August 9th. Special guests Mitchell Tenpenny and Ashley Cook. You can get tickets now at livenation.com, or it's one of these contests we have where you can text the number to our number, or you text the word to our number to win. The word is Jordan. Our number is 800-288-9227. It's the same as the call-in number. Text Jordan to 800-288-9227, or you can call that same number and talk to me. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. Joe Biden has dropped out of the race. What happens next? Man, I don't know. Really? We can guess. We can speculate. You're welcome to throw in your baseless speculation because that's all I got, too. 800-288-9227. But let's ask a guy who knows a little more about politics than we do. Dr. Cal Jilson's back from SMU. What do you think is going to happen next, Cal?
Well, I think that it'll resolve itself pretty quickly. More than half of elected Democrats in both the House and the Senate, more than half of Democratic governors in the country have already endorsed Harris. And as you were reporting, Nancy Pelosi has, and other leading Democrats will in short order, including Barack Obama, I think. So it's pretty well a done deal. And if someone is going to challenge her for this nomination, they have to gather signatures from 300 delegates to the Democratic National Convention, with no more than 50 from one individual state. And as I understand it, no one has begun to do that yet. The only person who talked anything about it was Joe Manchin, and he's backed off now. So it may well be that no one decides to contest the nomination because so many people, including, as you reported, 700 delegates, have already rolled in behind Harris. And Harris is their cleanest opportunity to nominate someone to replace Biden, who already controls the money and the campaign organization of the Biden-Harris ticket. So that should be Kamala Harris.
Is there going to be any issues about, Joe Biden's already got his name printed on the ballot and they can't change who the candidate is? Or is that just things I'm seeing on social media?
Well, I think each of the 50 states have somewhat different rules. And I think I read in the paper this morning that in Texas, you've got until the end of August. And in most other states, it'll be somewhere a couple of weeks, one way or the other from that. And the reason that the Democratic National Committee was planning to hold a phone roll call vote in the first week of August on Biden, and we'll probably want to do that for Harris as well if she appears to be dominant in this process, was to get ahead of all of those state deadlines and make sure that now Harris's name would be on the ballot in all 50 states. Yeah,
because what was it, the one I was hearing about, like Ohio or something like that? They already had their primary, and I've heard through the rumor mill that the only way you can change the result of that is through an act of the state legislature. Is this just another bad rumor I'm hearing?
I'm not sure. I think it was something like August 12th or some date like that. But the governor of Ohio, DeWine, has said specifically that he's going to do everything he can to make sure that Biden and now Harris's name was on the ballot, because you can't. And Trump ran into this right when Colorado tried to take his name off the ballot. People with any sense at all realize that the major candidates have to be on the ballot if you're going to hold a presidential election. And so I think there are ways in which to get Harris's name on the ballots in all 50 states.
Do you think she gives them a better chance of beating Trump than Biden did?
Yeah, I think right now you'd have to say no, not much better. But the real question, I think, is assuming that Harris is the nominee, and I believe that she will be the nominee, how does she emerge from this period of chaos into the nomination herself, and then preparing for the convention and into the campaign? In that process, she will either be confident and smooth and move sort of systematically through that process into her campaign after the convention, or she'll stumble. And if she stumbles, a lot of the support that she seems now to have will become shaky and maybe evaporate. But if she shows some stamina and some balance, and she's getting off to a good campaign, I think there's a chance that what is now a relief rally, that Biden is out of the picture, Harris is the likely nominee, and if Harris looks steady and stable, she could build on that relief rally. But she could also stumble, so we just have to wait and see how good she is in this campaign, because historically she's not been a great campaigner.
Well, I've also been interested to see how they handle the criticism of how do you claim to save democracy when you're going to overthrow the results of your primary process. And then I think, well, in 1968, they had to do this when LBJ dropped out in like March, and they were sort of in a similar scramble. But then I think a little harder about that, Cal, and that didn't really work out too well for them.
No. Any time a political party is in upheaval and looks to be trying to deal with chaos in order to get to solid ground, the public looks at that and I'm not so sure. And that's what happened in 68. The public was already off LBJ and the Vietnam War. There was a lot of instability in the nation's cities, and people looked at LBJ and people who offered to follow him on the Democratic side and said, yeah, I'll try Nixon here. That didn't work out so well either, but certainly the Democrats were decisively beaten in 68.
Well, Democrats in plural. There was Hubert Humphrey and George Wallace, who he ran as an independent, but we all know he was a Democrat. So that was that's not a possibility we see here, though. An actual split in the Democrat Party where they try and run two different candidates. That seems to be not on the cards for this time around.
No, there's nothing that suggests that that's about to happen. Democrats know, particularly the senior elected Democrats. You think of Nancy Pelosi, very, very shrewd. Schumer, he doesn't exude the sort of dominance that Pelosi did, but he's been around for a long time. And Clyburn and people like that, they know that unless you do sort of a straight handoff to Harris, you're going to be dealing with chaos into your convention. And that means your convention cannot be a controlled presentation, best foot forward to the public the way the Republican convention was last week. So they got to get their candidate settled, get a vice presidential nominee, and then use the convention to present their team and its program to the American public and hope to come out of that ready to run a national campaign.
Well, we will find out soon enough. Dr. Cal Gilson, the Democrat National Convention starts 4 weeks from today. So thank you for being on the James Show and helping us wade through some of this.
All right. Good to be with you.
Cal Gilson, SMU. I want to hear from you next, 800-288-9227. Also, I have some more audio of the reaction coming up on the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's talk about some baseless speculation. Hang on, I'll get to the phones in just a second. 800-288-9227. I am excited about talking to all of y'all. But what do you think about this conspiracy theory from the rumor mill? And yes, I'm calling it a conspiracy theory because this is just something I saw on a post where some guy is guessing, and your guess is as good as mine. And it's probably not true, but we're in a scenario. And the reason why I'm telling you it is because disprove this. You can't right now. It's just wild. But just to sort of illustrate how wild things are, is I can give you what sounds like a wicked Ocean's 14 sequel. And it doesn't. This is real life. The rumor mill is someone from the Las Vegas Metro Police Department posted online what really happened last week in Vegas. Now, as you remember, Joe Biden was at some convention. I think it's the NAACP convention or BET Awards or something in Vegas, and he had an event in the morning, but he didn't show up to his event in the afternoon. He was a half hour late, and they said, the president's delayed. He'll be here shortly. Thank you for your patience. 30 minutes later, they did the same thing. When he was late for an hour and a half, they came out and they're like, oh, he tested positive for COVID. He's got to be isolated now. And no one has seen him since. The PD, the rumor is, someone from the Las Vegas Police Department said they had a medical emergency. He had to be taken to Johns Hopkins. And he may have had a serious medical event. I don't know, heart attack, aneurysm, stroke, who knows? And he may already be dead. We haven't heard from him. Okay. Look, that sounds like really far out, but disprove it. He resigned via X. He didn't resign like in person with anyone seeing him. No one's seen him live since then. Disprove it? I can't. Because the question is, when was the last time anyone saw Joe Biden? And I think for the outside world, that was that last week in Vegas before he announced that he had, air quote, tested positive for COVID. To the phones we go. Oh, look, he hung up and called back. Chris in Nacogdoches, you're on the James Show on WBAP. What do you think, sir?
How you doing, sir?
I'm well.
Good. I tell you what, I just think that I think the Democrats are going to select Michelle Obama because Barack Obama runs this party. And some people might disagree with me on this, but Michelle is beloved in this country. Whether you're conservative or liberal, a lot of people love Michelle Obama. And she is probably the only one that can give Trump a run for his money.
Yeah, I agree. I think if she runs, she wins. I don't think she wants to run. And that's so hard for us to fathom. But her life right now is better than being in the White House. And she knows it because she had to live in the White House for 8 years. The living conditions that she has now, far better than the residents at the White House. She doesn't have to do any press conferences. She doesn't have to answer any questions. She doesn't have to go to boring Senate meetings and cabinet meetings and joint chiefs of staffs. And, someone launched a missile in the Middle East, so I got to go down to the war room and pretend I'll be all interested in this, when I could just be gallivanting around my $15 million mansion at Martha's Vineyard, my $12 million mansion at Maui, my $8 million mansion in Chicago, or my $16 million mansion in D.C. Why would you trade? For us, being president would be a promotion. For her, it would be a demotion. Now, that's not to say she's not going to do it. I can just see why she wouldn't want to do it. And she doesn't go out and do political rallies, and she has the capital to do that. She really doesn't. I get the impression she really doesn't like this country. I base that not just on her actions as an adult, but she started out, if you've ever read her thesis from Princeton, it's only 72 pages and it's, typed double space. So you can read the whole thing in like 12 minutes. She does not think highly of this country. She thinks this is a horrible, horrible place and irredeemable.
And she's beloved in this country. That's the thing about it. She's beloved.
Well, a good chunk of my friends who are Americans, never lived anywhere else, don't know how good they have it, think the same thing. If you watch TV and if you only listen to some of your college professors and your favorite musician and your favorite actors, I can see why you would come away with the idea that this place is some sort of racist, bigoted hellhole and not worth loving. It's a shame, though, because it's not true at all. Just the opposite. But yeah, I agree. Michelle Obama is probably their best chance. If they can talk her into running, she probably wins.
Absolutely.
All right. How are you listening in Nacogdoches? Our signal doesn't reach Nacogdoches.
Oh, I can hear you loud and clear on Nacogdoches.
Oh, that's so good to hear, because I'm from Bug Tussle. You know where Chapel Hill is?
I sure do.
Yeah, so the signal starts to run out there, so you must have a good antenna or something. Because I feel like I'm on the fringe out on the old Ponderosa out there. That'd be so cool if where I grew up was called the Ponderosa, but I'm sure that name's already taken. So now what do you think? 800-288-9227. And thank you, Brian, over here on Facebook, already responding to the conspiracy theory that I saw on Instagram on the last break. How would a Vegas Metro cop know that Biden had to go to Johns Hopkins? Okay, so the answer to that is if he had to block the streets on the detail to the helipad, because they're going to helicopter him out here. They're going to take a medical helicopter to Johns Hopkins, and he's on the radio, and he would hear that conversation. Outbound to Johns Hopkins, inbounds from the Las Vegas Sands. I don't know. They could have done it from the helipad on top of the Mirage, or I don't even know if they have a helipad there. But I can see how there would be a way for a Vegas Metro cop to know Biden had to go to Johns Hopkins, because they're going to be providing security detail for the transportation of wherever he was at to him getting the heck out of there. And if he did get out of there, whether it was plane or helicopter, a lot of the times the chatter includes the destination. I think. That's a good question, though. I appreciate you being critical thinking there. And then Dixie says, isn't a resignation tweet, this is also from Facebook, isn't a resignation tweet from an incumbent candidate the equivalent of breaking up with a longtime girlfriend, boyfriend by sticky note? No, I think it's about the same as breaking up with a longtime boyfriend and girlfriend by Facebook instant message. That's the metaphor I think is probably closest. That is kind of insulting. Why did he just send out like a tweet? You can't tell us face to face, or at least on a live video. You can't just interrupt programming, or I don't know, pre-record a video and send it out. Something, right? That was like the lamest breakup. It kind of hurts my feelings if I had feelings. All right, I'll talk to you again next. Who do you think it's going to be? 800-288-9227. And we got to play Dead or Alive for 2 tickets to see Tucker Carlson and Roseanne Barr next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let me clear up the story. This is from the rumor mill. And listen, I welcome what will later be called conspiracy theories, but right now these are just hypotheses, and I'm not going to shoot you down to call you stupid or say you're insane for believing in something so dumb. We don't do that until we know the questions or the answers. There's a limited number of dumb questions, unless it's obviously been refuted. I'm not going to give you a hard time. But the latest conspiracy possible is, I saw this on Instagram. A guy got a lead on a story from a Las Vegas Metro cop. And so we were talking about that in the last segment. And the last comment here from Brian says, John Hopkins is in Baltimore. He wouldn't take a helo from Las Vegas. If there was a medical emergency, he would have to maybe take into LA, but that is an hour by helicopter. The Vegas cop post is BS. Okay, well, there wasn't a helicopter. It was medevac. Medevac was the word used. They didn't specify helicopter. Let me just read a chunk of this post. Got a call from a source close to the Las Vegas Metro. The official story was that Joe Biden's trip was cut short last week due to COVID. However, according to this source, U.S. Secret Service informed Las Vegas Metro that there was an emergency situation involving Joe Biden and to close necessary streets so that POTUS could be transported immediately to University Medical, which they began to do in earnest. Then mysteriously, there was a stand-down order, and the U.S. Secret Service informed local Vegas PD that they were going to medevac POTUS to Johns Hopkins, which they presumed meant fly him back east ASAP. Apparently, the rumor mill in the police department was that Joe Biden was dying or possibly already dead. And this is the kind of stuff that gets fueled by not seeing him since this happened. He hasn't done anything live in the public eye since that happened. So that might not be true. It might be true. But in the meantime, it just raises some more questions. And look, I have friends. I'm not afraid to say that some of my friends are throwing around the idea that there might have been a second shooter, or that some of the details here aren't adding up and there's no way he could have acted alone, or the Secret Service may have pushed him in that direction. And then that's on Team Red. On Team Blue, the conspiracy theory rumor mill that I keep seeing from a lot of my friends is what was borne out by this poll that came out last week on Newsweek. They go over a poll that shows 1 in 3 Biden supporters think the Trump shooting might have been staged. It's kind of a bold claim, don't you think? So we got conspiracy theories on both sides. I am hesitant to even call them conspiracy theories because so many things that have been called conspiracy theory in about the last 4.5 years turned out to be true. So until we get more info, you're welcome to call in and add.